This meeting is being recorded.
Okay,
You want to log in and then you can leave a log offering. Do you have your name tag? We do need a
I
name.
don't know if Carol got her name tag. This is her first time here.
Oh, Carol, would you go make yourself a name tag, please?
Okay. Does she, I don't know if she knows how.
Oh,
I mean, she hasn't done this before. Thank you, Doug.
thank you.
Are we ready to rock and roll? Oh, Doug, thank you. Okay, are we ready, ladies?
And gentlemen,
Let's join Joe. Okay, Google, mic on.
Turning the living room light on.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Okay, Google, like off.
All right, turning the living room light on.
So, will you online?
Okay, Google, lights on.
Okay, Betty, you should,
Turning on the living room light.
whose voice am I hearing? I think that's Betty.
Let me mute.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Can you folks online hear me okay?
not very well.
Not very well. Have you got your volume all the way up on your computer?
No.
Check and see. You know, I think we better pray in first. We're gonna pray. Are you ready, you folks online? We're gonna pray in. Get ourselves ready for this. So take a deep breath, close your eyes. And I invite you to just set the intention to be 100% present. Your mind is going to want to wander because that's what minds do. But you have an observer self, so keep that observer present and keep all of you fully present. Because God is experience, the goodness of God and all of its manifest forms is experienced only in the present moment. Not in the past, not in the future, only in the now moment. And so spirit of life and joy and love and wisdom and all things good, we gather this morning to explore the goodness of your nature as it expresses in infinite ways. We give thanks for the spiritual laws that provide us tools to live a life that we love. And so we enter this time with a sense of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy. Thank you, God. Amen. Amen. Okay, well, let's introduce ourselves. Let me start online. So you'll have to unmute, but if you would introduce yourself and your most daring experience. Everyone's eyes are crossing right now. Let's start with you, Betty.
I didn't hear what kind of an experience?
Your most daring experience.
Daring experience. Well, I'm Betty Ryan, and I'm on Zoom today because I have another important Zoom coming right up after this, and I wouldn't make it home in time. So every other week I'll be doing one or the other. Daring experience. You didn't give me much.
It doesn't have to be gigantic. It doesn't have to be gigantic, just daring for you.
All right, daring for me was starting my blog.
Yes.
because mother always said, what will people think of you if you do such and such, you know? And I knew I was putting myself out there, my thoughts, my feelings, my faith. But it's turned out to be very good. So it was a good daring experience to take.
So it was a leap of faith, wasn't it?
I don't know why you're kind of muffled, Sharon. I couldn't understand that either.
It was a leap of faith. Whenever we do something daring, it's a leap of faith.
Right.
Okay, let me go down to Joe, and who's with you, Joe? Unmute. Unmute. Can't hear you. Unmute. Unmute your computer.
This is my fiance, Arlene, and we are in Fort Collins, Colorado right now. We're preparing to return to Sun City West in October. Can you hear me, Sharon?
Yes, thank you so much. Welcome. So Joe and your fiance, Elaine,
I'm sorry,
your fiance's name is
Arlene.
Arlene. Arlene. Okay, so Arlene, I'm gonna start with you. Are you ready?
Sure.
Sure. Share with all of us a daring experience.
So it wasn't an intention to be a daring experience. And I'll call it daring and frightening. And that was, we went to Denali several years ago and took an airplane flight and landed on an iceberg or on a glacier, and had to fly through snowstorms and within feet of hitting mountains, and it was absolutely terrifying. I have never been so frightened in my whole life. I really did not expect to live through that. And the pilot even said when we were leaving that if we had landed on a different glacier, that we probably would have been snowed in for the night.
Oh my goodness.
I would not have, they didn't prepare us for any of it. And it was, I feel like I was one of the bravest things I've ever done, not knowing that I needed to be brave.
Did it increase your faith?
I think I'm pretty strong, and no, I just, yeah, no, it just is there.
So I'm gonna invite you to look again. Because terrifying, like I might have to, this may be my last night or day. It probably, I would think it provokes a lot of feelings and reverie. But I could be wrong. So let's go to Joe. Joe? A daring experience.
I'm going to use the same one that Arlene did because that was pretty terrifying. And I tried to remain stoic through the whole thing. But on that fear-faith continuum, I vacillated. I had a lot more faith because that little de Havilland Otter single prop airplane that was built in 1960, and this was only about 4 years ago, I had a lot of faith that it was going to churn its way to there and back safely. The young man that was flying it, I kind of wondered about him a little bit, but there were times when my knuckles really gripped the seat handles, but most of the flight, so I vacillated between faith and fear. Overall, I think I had more faith than fear, or I wouldn't have gotten on that silly thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I could picture that. I could picture it all. Woo. Okay, let's go to, thank you. Let's go to Doug and then we'll come around this way.
Doug Kraus. I say one of the daring things about life was coming home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. And Cindy said to me, "What are you doing home so early? You get fired?" And I said, "Yes."
Oh.
And so I said, so what are you gonna do? And I said, "Well, I don't know." She says, "You know what? You've talked all your life that you wanted to start your own business. Either do it now or I don't want to hear about it anymore." And that was in the middle of April. The beginning of June, we opened up our store with the restaurant. We called it the Good Stuff Company.
Oh, how cool is that?
Because we had been worked on the idea, you know, we're gonna do it someday, we're gonna do it someday. She's one of the pushed and said, do it. All right, I want to hear about it.
Behind every successful man, there is a.
Good job.
Oh, was it fun? Oh, yeah.
But it was interesting, at Christmas time, when we were doing the store, because we also had bulk food plus the restaurant. And we'd be bickering back and forth, and one customer said, so what are you getting each other for Christmas? And we looked at each other and said, a divorce.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. How fun. And was that in Wheaton? I forget. Was it Naperville? Naperville.
Yeah.
Naperville, Illinois. Okay, Cindy.
My most daring experience was picking up a husband and wife that had been in my Lamaze classes to take them to the hospital. And a mile away from the hospital, I heard this grunting sound.
Uh-oh.
And I said, was that a push? And she said, yes. And I thought, the baby's first word's gonna be, oh shit. I pulled over, delivered 11-pound baby.
Oh, my word.
And we drove to the hospital and said, they checked her out, checked the baby out. And I said, what are you gonna do? They said, oh, we're gonna isolate the mother for 3 days and isolate the baby in a different room for 3 days.
Oh,
I said, no, thank you. Everybody's okay. We went back home.
really?
Yeah, she was
Oh,
my little goddaughter.
Oh, 11 pounds and they don't need
Pound.
you. Could you all hear that story online? Cindy's story, yikes. Thank you. Derek, let's go.
Oh, Darlene, and I guess probably the scariest experience I had was leaving an abusive husband. And it came down to the point that we were just really at it. And he raised his hand to hit me, which he had never done before. He was verbally and emotionally abusive. But I just looked at him and I said, come on. Come on, because I was going to kill him. And I never realized that I had that kind of anger inside me. So I did a lot of years of work on myself for that. And looking back, it was a good experience because I needed to get angry.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Thank you, thank you. Carol?
Yeah, my name is Carol Buchanan, and in May, I had an illness. I've never been ill before in any respect. I've been a tennis player and been active, busy. And it slowed me down to the point that I didn't even want to go on. You know, you get ill, and it brought God back into my life because he did miracles. I'm able to be physical fit right now. He's healing another little problem that's looks like it's going to be good. And because I was so busy and active and doing things and working, it was his way of saying, stop and go for what you want now in life. So I'm just fortunate that I can go ahead and do what I want in life.
It's a bit like.
And it brought me back to the church, which I've read numerous books on motivation. And I'm glad I'm back here.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's those experiences invite us into reflecting, right, on how God has actually been active in our lives. yeah, so my most daring experience, and I did it intentionally because I did not want to ever have fear make decisions for me anymore. And so I jumped out of an airplane.
Oh,
A couple of friends and I went, this was in Kansas City, went out one day, and this was a real old plane. I don't know what year, Joe, but it was a prop flight and it sputtered and sputtered down the runway. I thought, we are never gonna get up in the air. And we got to 15,000 feet and the pilot said, okay, let's go. So there were 4 of us on the plane. I did a tandem jump. I didn't jump by myself. I had a jumper attached to me. And the instruction was to, you know, flatten yourself out when you jump. But we had to step out on a strut and hold on to something up here. I thought, I'm not gonna make that. I never have been in such a cold sweat in my whole life, going up in that plane. And the guy said, okay, 1, 2, 3, and I jumped. And my co-pilot, or my pilot, I should say, didn't open the parachute, didn't open the parachute. Oh my God, it's not gonna hold. Finally, he pulled the cord and it was the most beautiful experience I've had in that way, to, like the astronauts, to see Mother Earth from out in space and see that it's a living thing. For me to be 15,000 feet in the air and look down on this immense patterned country, it was like looking at, if you've ever done quilts, you know, it looked like a beautiful colored quilt. It was pretty astounding. Anyway, I appreciate you jumping into this with me. And so as we enter here now, Joe and Arlene, are you members of the Unity Church already?
Yes.
You
yes.
are.
We are members up here and in Sun City West.
Okay, great. So you probably know everything we're about to take a look at here. The folks in this class, well, Darlene, you've been with us before, but it's always good to review spiritual truth and to know what our roots are. And you guys have been in this class before too, right? So thank you for reviewing. Carol, I'm sure you did it way back when too. And Betty has too. We met last week and made a lot of progress, so I'm going to just do a little bit of a review on our history and Myrtle, and then move on from there into the 5. So what I'm going to be covering is the basic foundations of unity, and then talk about some of the distinctions, what makes us different than mainline denominations, and then some of the frameworks that we have, the tools, spiritual tools, that really help us handle most any situation that we might meet with, not with fear, but, well, maybe some fear, but faith. We've got tools to quantify the fears. So I'm going to move along. Any comments or questions before I start? Anything come up after last week's class for the folks here? Any question at all? Spiritually related? No, nothing out there either. Okay, here we go. Let's see where I want.
You ended up at 5 laws of spiritual dynamics.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look for a minute at our beginning. Right here. So we, unity. As you see, 1880s. Fillmore started prayer meetings in their home, healing prayer, because Myrtle had been healed of tuberculosis, which at that time was it was, if you got it, you were gone. And so, so she was healed through the power of prayer. But it's important, I think, to pause for a moment and remember that she had the luxury and the discipline to spend hours a day in prayer. I don't know how many for sure, because I wasn't there, but she talked about spending a lot of time, and so did her husband, Charles Fillmore. Prior to this 1880s prayer meetings in their home, and the books and magazines and silent unity that resulted, they had been on a spiritual search, which probably all of us were, right? I don't know, Betty, I know you were. Arlene, were you on a spiritual search before you found unity? Do you know how to unmute?
I would say I have been all my life.
You have been all your life?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you been in unity for a very long time?
More than 30 years.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Okay. Well, this is going to be probably not a lot of new information for you.
I will
Pardon?
love every minute of everything that you share with us.
Good. Okay, so I will move along then, and stop at any point if any kind of question comes up at all. So in 1914, you see that Unity was incorporated as a nonprofit. And in the 20s, Arlene, do you remember Prosperity Banks?
No, ma'am.
I do too, I had one. In fact, I think I still have it. Where it was an intuition of Lowell Fillmore, and it proved to be very successful for the people who had these prosperity banks, where you're supposed to put your loose change in it. And then at some point in the future, I don't know how long they said to do it, whether it was a year or more, but the banks were about this big, maybe 4 inches high, 5 inches high, 3 inches wide. It looked like a church. It was shaped like a church with a little, looked like a bank too. It had a little hole at the top. Change. And then Son Rickard, an architect, designed Unity Village, which is Italian Renaissance. It's really beautiful. So I think. Doug, would you read this for us again? This is a repeat, but good information.
I remember with great joy the time when it was down upon me that God was my Father, and that I needed not to be bound by human limitations. I have been laboring under the belief in inherited ill health, and the truth of my divine parentage freed and healed me. It flashed upon me that I might talk to the life in every part of my body. I began to teach my body and got marvelous results.
And I might add that Myrtle said that she did all kinds of forgiveness work with her body. She would speak to the organs and cells of her body and say, please forgive me for not taking better care of you, for not paying more attention to you. So it's the whole idea of what is my relationship with my body? Do I have a loving, appreciative, grateful relationship with my body? And she developed one, apparently. Apparently, she didn't before that. Any comments or questions there? Okay. So Charles. Darlene, would you read this one for us?
Man is mind and he is capable of comprehending the plan and the detailed ideas of the one mind.
That's pretty encouraging.
Mhm.
And it's done not only in meditation time, but it's done by paying, I believe, paying close attention to our life. Like you said, Darlene, you said what you got from that marriage that you got yourself out of was
Strength for myself.
strength.
Realizing that I didn't have to have somebody else control me.
Yeah. Changes everything, doesn't it?
It does, it does.
Any comments or questions there? Okay, here we go. So unity today, I went over that. I'm not going to go through this again because
Yeah.
you don't need to. I thought it would be important though for all of us to be aware when we say unity is a part of the New Thought movement, what are we including in that? What's in the New Thought movement? So we've got unity, we've got Centers for Spiritual Living, which joined together some years ago. It was they split. It was religious science and they split, and there was a religious science and then there were unity. I didn't mean unity churches. I meant united. Sorry about that. It should be United Church of Religious Science. They joined and now they're all called Centers for Spiritual Living. As part of the movement, Christian Science, the Association for Global New Thought, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Independent New Thought Churches, and Unity Worldwide Ministries and Unity World Headquarters. So these, and I'm not sure today how many independent churches there are. I know there's one in Atlanta, big one. There's one in Chicago, Johnny Coleman's church, which has remained independent, but part of this New Thought movement, which means they study the same things we do, right? They apply the law to circumstances of life. Okay, let's take a look at the 5 laws. So the first law is, let's say it together. There is only one person and one power. God is good. Amen. And we say on Sunday mornings, we say in the universe, right? There's only one presence and one power in the universe, and in my life, God is good on everything. That is an incredibly powerful statement, if we can believe it. And it makes a distinction between unity and New Thought churches and many of the mainline and fundamental Christian churches, which say, be careful of the devil out there, it's going to get you. As if there is a power other than God, that there's actually a power for evil. What we say, and it's metamorphosized into a being as God used to be in many denominations. It's metamorphosized in the fact that it's always out there tempting you. We say no, where the temptation is a misunderstanding of spiritual law in here. We say it is, this is the way unity describes sin. And I'm jumping ahead of myself here. It is any attempt to, what's the word I want? Any belief or attempt to, God, I've just lost a word, to negate a divine idea. So a divine idea, for example, all of the 12 powers are considered divine ideas. So the idea of love, divine idea, we say God is love. If I'm in a state of mind and heart other than love, I'm just, maybe not intentionally at all, probably not, but I'm just in the process of negating by my thinking or flying in the face of a divine law, and that doesn't work. Any comments or questions so far? I'm talking too much, come on.
Well, this is the one thing I always had trouble with as a kid, because I grew up in an area where I had a lot of Catholic friends. And they always had to go to confession and talk to somebody, like a go-between, and I couldn't understand why don't you just talk to God? You know? But it was almost like it's kind of a control issue that you know, somebody else has to be in charge. And you have to go to them. And, you know, for me, myself, I do believe that God is around us and within us. And the devil is also within us because it's our way of thinking. You know, so, I mean, unity is just, from the first day I walked into unity all those years ago, it was like, I'm home.
Yeah. Thank you, great. Joe or Arlene, you want to make a comment?
I'm with you. I do not believe there is something that's called the devil.
Say that again, Arlene.
I'm with you. I do not believe that there is something called a devil or evil. I believe that it's just an error in our thinking.
Yes, yeah. It can be a simple misunderstanding or ignorance of the truth. I'm holding on to this belief because I don't know anything else.
Right.
A misunderstanding, an ignorance, or an attempt to negate. Okay, great. So it might be good, you know, when we did this last time, I did ask you to reflect on what do you believe about God? And actually, what do you want to believe about God? And how would you describe your relationship with God? So any comments now in reflecting for a moment about those questions and where you're at, what your answers are?
I just think that coming to the realization that Jesus was on this plane of existence and his message was basically God is within you. I think is a very powerful thing, and to recognize that I'm an individualization of God.
Yes.
I'm not all God. I'm an individualization of God. And I have those qualities that God has, and I can call on that at any time.
It's very empowering, isn't it?
Yes.
We're not at the effect of circumstances, people, places, things. Thank you, Cindy. Arlene or Joe, do you want to say anything about any of those questions?
I just have an overpowering feeling of God as love, and all of the positive manifestations that come from love, relationships, I can't think of words this morning. What do I want to believe about God? I want to believe that God is right here with us, with you there, with us here. There's no dimension that God cannot enter. And how would I describe my relationship with God? I think I have an open relationship, and he can come in anytime he wants to. He's very welcome, and he or she knows that. So
Thank you.
And for me, having grown up in a real fundamental religion, I I do not use the word God. I use higher power or universe. Universe is the word that I usually choose, and it's part of us.
Yes, and it steps away from that tendency to metamorphosize God as a person, but rather an energy, for example, of love. The reason I can love is because God is the creative principle of love, the energy of it. I can't explain it all, you know, I mean, I just believe that it's energy because I experience it. There's about God, there's still a great mystery. I don't know all there is to know. I just have some experiences that demonstrate to me the nature of God. And unity speaks to that nature. And here it is. The nature of God. Carol, would you read the first one? Can you see it okay?
Yeah, correct, yeah. God is the creative principle of the absolute good.
God is the creative principle of absolute good. What does that mean?
God is not here to judge you,
Right?
and, anything that bad happens, we can't blame it on God.
Right.
Like we hear some people,
God made me do it.
right.
Absolute good. So have you ever heard of a flawless diamond? I didn't have one, but I've heard of them. So if you can, a flawless diamond is one that has no impurities within it. Every facet of the diamond is absolutely perfect. That's absolute. God only knows absolute good as the energy of goodness itself. We experience it. We get to experience the goodness of God in a relative way. In other words, Joe loves Arlene. Doug loves Cindy.
Oh, that's what you think.
Sound like they're married already.
Maybe today.
So,
Just teasing. I'll be good now. Okay.
just be good. So anything we say about God, love, light, wisdom, is that absolute purity of it. No flaw, no error. And we get to experience it in relative ways in the circumstances of our life, or in a moment of our life. So if I'm enraged, I've just stepped out of this, of the experience of absolute love, right? If I hate somebody, if I'm making someone wrong, if I'm judging them, I have just stepped out of the absolute goodness of God in a relative way because of what I'm experiencing. So we just did God is the 1P, that's how I remembered it. 1P, one presence, one power. Darlene, would you read the next one, Limitless?
Limitless source of abundant life, love, and wisdom.
And I could go through all of the 12 powers. That God is a limitless source of abundance that includes life, love, wisdom, strength, power, creativity, imagination, understanding, willingness, release. Next one says God is spirit, which well, you tell me, what do you see about that? God is spirit.
When you start feeling him in your life.
Yeah.
And there's a communication that finally, when you recognize God and he interrupts your life because it's not going in the right way, and you start communicating with him, and you actually get direction and guidance in my experience.
Yes, thank you, thanks. So you're not on the phone with a being on the other end, right? Your spirit is an experience, you said, where you can communicate. Anyone else want to comment on spirit?
I think it's kind of like a buddy. I mean, you know, I do things simple, but it's, to me, it's that feeling that you know inside. And if I need a buddy to talk to or to help me out with something, he's right there.
Yes. Anybody else? Thank you. On spirit. So spirit, we say, I mean, I've often heard in unity that our breath is spirit. We breathe by virtue of the fact that God is in us. Breath of life, spirit. Intelligence, or I could say wisdom there, but God is the very essence of intelligence and wisdom. Father, mother, that's one of the paradoxes. So, you know, because in the English language, everything is either feminine, masculine, or it, right? In Hebrew, that's not so. And so those of us who speak Romance languages, and probably Hindu and other languages as well, I don't know for sure, but the Romance languages, it's either he or she or it. So we often refer to God as him. Is that accurate? It's a pronoun, it's just a pronoun, right? What this whole idea of father and mother is to say that God is the principle of masculinity and the creative principle of femininity. If that weren't so, would we have men and women? We'd all be the same, we'd all be the same. If God were not masculine and feminine, how could we have masculine and feminine beings here?
Mother Nature.
No comments?
Never thought of it that way.
Pardon me?
Never thought of it that way.
Oh, good. Oh, good. We say that, you know, sometimes we talk about Father, Mother, God, and transcendent, immanent as the paradox. And also, am I going to say, oh, I didn't do any more? Surprised at myself. Here's more here. Because we say God is both outside of us and inside of us, right?
That's
Kind of paradoxical, both are true. God is out there and God is in here. God is masculine and God is feminine. God is receptive and assertive, masculine, feminine. And so in meditation state, we're in the receptive state, right? Sitting in the feminine energy of God, waiting for the masculine, waiting for divine ideas. Okay, so here's some more on the nature of God. One presence, one power. Here's another paradigm. Principle and personal. God is impersonal and personal, because you all have spoken, most of you anyway, about the relationship you have with God. It's a relationship. And it's not just impersonal, is it? Because you talk to God, right? You experience guidance, which is personal. Impersonal is God, the energy of the creative, well, let me back up. The creative energy of the universe is impersonal. It's law. The law is which we'll get to, what you think about, you bring about. The law is, our thoughts create our reality. There are lots more laws relative to that, I'm sure, but for us here, I'm only going to talk about that part of it. The law of mind action. So God is both principle or law and personal. Then we go on to say God is the very creative principle of life, vitality. God is love, and Joe spoke about that. So all the expressions of love, kindness, compassion, thoughtfulness, generosity, God expressing. The Hindus have a wonderful way about that. They name those aspects gods, like Ganesh and Shiva and Brahman, all what we would say as, we might call it release, protection. They have names for it too. Anyway, God's wisdom and intelligence unerring. Source energy, God is power, God is substance, abundance. Is there any lack in God? No, because God is the flawless diamond. So if we're experiencing lack, what the message is, change your mind. They could see it differently. As the Course in Miracles says, you could see this differently.
What is the word IMMANENT? I've never heard that word.
Oh, imminent,
Yeah.
that's within. Imminent. It's like imminent good, or I've heard, here's the way I've heard it used a lot, imminent danger. Like when that plane landed on the iceberg, imminent danger. The danger is right here. So imminent, when we talk about God, God is both imminent and transcendent. God is everywhere present, transcendent, and imminent within. Any comments, questions?
Imminent also means right here, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, imminent means right here, right now. Anything else? Guys are quiet today, what's up? So here's the second law. The first law is, let me hear the first law.
There's only one presence, one power, God, the good around it.
Thank you. This is the second law, which is, and Cindy, you use this term exactly, God individualized as us. Spark within. The divine spark within. So how would you describe your divine nature? Is that a bad question?
We're children of God.
Pardon?
We're children of God, so we have God essence within us.
Okay, good. I could say, part of my divine nature is that the love I feel for my kids is indescribable. It's just to the ends of the earth. Who else? How would you describe your divine nature?
Constantly learning.
You're still learning?
I'm still learning. I think that my goal on earth is to learn.
Great, great. I hope so. I like to think that even, sitting here in this chair, I can learn. When you share, it makes a huge difference because it synergizes the creative energy that's here. And your perspective matters, right? Because we don't all have the same perspective on things, so it helps to share. Anything else? Any questions or comments come up for you around God within us, indwelling spirit?
For me, I think that the word that I like to use is personality. That we all have very unique, individualized personalities, and that spark within us can spark others.
Great. Yes. And I have under here, which you guys probably can't read because it's in, oh, you can. That we are both divine and human, divine in that God indwells us. But because we've taken on bodies and as Arlene said, personality, we have a personality. We're human beings, so we have in the manifest world, the absoluteness of God takes on a polarity. We can read it in the 7 days of creation. God said, let there be light, there be darkness. God said, let there be animals, there were animals. God's moving over the face of the waters and brings forth vegetation and human beings. So it's like day, night, good, bad, up, down, in, out, polarized. But God is one. But out of that oneness comes many expressions. And once they're manifest, like us, within that divine nature is a human nature. When we get to the frameworks, there's a framework for it, a tool. Okay, this is, get this kind of out of the way. I need someone to read this.
The perfect man idea in God's mind is known under various names in the many religious systems. The Krishna of Hinduism is the same as the Messiah of the Hebrews. The perfect idea of God, man, is your true self. The second verb is that in which we put on the Christ.
Yes. Charles. So the second verb is that in which we put on the Christ. So if you can think back to a moment when you saw God moving in your life. That would be like a second verse. You identify it, or the moment you realize that you had overcome something very difficult, whether it was a thought or a challenge in life, that you were taking dominion. That's like a second verse because you're putting on some aspect of God, which is the Christ. Any comments or questions there?
I was gonna say, I always pictured God as the hub of the wheel, and there's the infinite spokes of how everyone comes into the hub of the wheel.
That's a great analogy. It's a great symbol for how. Yeah. Anything else, Joe or Arlene? No, okay.
No, it is what it is.
We're
There
good.
you go.
He said it is what it is.
It is
We're
what,
good.
did you say it is what it is?
Yes, you can't deny it.
We can't deny it. Can't deny it. Okay, indwelling presence of God.
But it doesn't help.
What?
We can, but it doesn't help.
That's true, you can't help them. Does not help.
Right.
There's a great Unity book. Arlene, you may have read it since you've been with Unity for a very long time. Imelda Shanklin wrote a book called What Are You? And I know we have it in our library, should you ever have time for it. Doug, would you read this one for us?
You are a soul that has forgotten its divine identity. A soul now struggles to remember in the midst of time and in the confusion of experiences that you are the living son of the living God. Spiritually, you are an idea in the mind of God. That idea must be given expression in you.
So as we go out into our day today, we might think, how am I going to be a living expression of the one? The third law of spiritual dynamics is such a,
Thoughts held in mind produced after their kind. Thoughts are created.
yeah. Thoughts held in mind produced after their kind. You can watch that happening when you watch your own thinking, right? Any comments so far on that one?
Well, what you think is what you get, basically.
Yeah.
If you're thinking negative, you're gonna get negative.
Right.
But if you think positive and throw out the negative, which is hard to do, you get the positive.
Kind of garbage in, garbage out.
Say that again?
Garbage in, garbage out.
That's right, that's right.
When I worked with my adolescents in school, I tried to always teach this point to them. That when you think, when you dislike somebody else, or you think negative, or I can't do it, or whatever, you're just like a human magnet.
Yes,
For some reason, you're gonna give that out, and it's gonna come right back to you, yes.
yes.
So if you think positive, you know, your chances are you're gonna be more positive than negative.
And do I want to go there? No.
Plus, it doesn't take any more energy to think positive than it does negative.
Say that again.
It doesn't take any more energy to think positive or to think negatively.
No, it doesn't.
How does that work in your business, in your restaurant?
Well, that's a good question.
And next, the name of our store, good stuff was God's stuff. That's how
Oh,
we're kind of saying.
Yeah.
what did you have in your store?
It's a bulk food store, we have everything in bins,
Oh.
all natural stuff.
Oh,
For us, we got over 30 different coffee beans, over 200 spices in bulk, you could buy a teaspoon of the spice. And then we had the restaurant in the front part.
And
does that sound like fun?
how many years did you do that?
Well,
In the initial year, how did you feel that it was going to grow and grow and grow?
we just knew it.
We grew the first year, we tripled our size the first year.
Wow.
'Cause
Where was this located?
in Naperville,
Illinois.
Naperville, Illinois, outside of Chicago, 28 miles west.
No.
Beautiful Naperville.
I have a comment if I may.
Please.
I do think it takes more energy to be positive than negative.
Say more about that.
I don't think it's the same amount of energy. I'm a therapist, and so my clients come in with incredible boxes and bundles of negative thinking and negative dialogue that are often multi-generational, and it takes a great deal of energy, commitment, motivation for them to daily make a decision and do new actions to change from a negative to a positive.
Well, in that sense, yes, absolutely. Because let me take that and put it next to, Arlene, the tools we have. Number one, this one, thoughts held in mind produced after their kind. So the clients you see, Cindy is also a therapist. The clients you see come in with a whole truckload of negative thinking and experiences. And it's like, you know, if I let my house go and let the dust and dirt pile up and track in mud and, you know, grit and grime from outside, it's going to take me a lot longer to clean my house than if I kept up with it on a daily basis. The tool that we have, well, which I'm sure you try to teach your clients, is, you know, your thinking makes a huge difference. And the tool we have in Unity, well, we have 4 tools of transformation, which I'm going to get to right now. Whoops.
Well, I was going to say, Sharon, that I'm not a therapist. I have a license in counseling. But that's one reason why I never wanted to be a therapist, because I felt like it's very difficult to get people to change over at times. So I wanted to work with kids before they got to that point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to have some positive things behind them before they get.
Yes. Yeah.
I always thought it's better to build children than to repair men.
Yes, absolutely. I see that. And, what was I gonna say about that? It'll come back to me. But, the whole, it's difficult to change. I mean, there it is. And I've often used the analogy of our hard drive of our mind. That, and the analogy of having a computer, this being a computer. If I have tainted programs on my computer, I need to erase them or they infect everything. And I think that's the same way with our thinking. If I'm filled with fear or resentments, angers, hate, false ideas about how to make it in the world, I'm going to keep probably hitting myself again, hitting my head against the wall. But I need to reprogram my thinking, and the more negativity I've built up, the longer it's going to take. Hence, more energy, right? More energy in the moment. Well, I have that moment of choice, which is critical. I can hang on to this negative thought or not. That's why, that whole Thich Nhat Hanh thing in Buddhist about be here now, Ram Dass, the Hindu be here now is the only cure. I mean, not the only cure. It is the help in the moment to not really go down a rabbit hole of negativity. Any more comments about that, Arlene?
Well, I use the computer also as a metaphor for this. So the hard drive is there. And even if we try to erase it, it's still, the information is still there and it can be retrieved. The only way to really remove the information that's on the hard drive is to completely destroy the computer. And it's the same with the brain, in my belief. Others could believe differently. I think that when you turn on the computer, it has a default setting and it goes to those negative or those positive places. So that's where we do the reprogramming, is by getting that default setting reset. My negative thinking is still in here, and it startles me often when that negative stuff comes up, even though I've been working on it forever. I think that we all have to be a little bit vigilant, and like your tools that you're saying right now on the board, we have to use those tools so that we can continually be moving forward.
Yeah, let's remember to use the tools in the moment of temptation. So do you need to stand up? Do you guys need a little break? Arlene and Joe, no? Are you guys okay to go on? Yeah, okay, all right. So the tools of transformation. So this is the fourth principle. So we're talking about 5 principles, our foundations in unity. One presence, one power, the divine spark, the law of mind action. And now the tools of transformation. How do we transform our consciousness and our lives? Through affirmative prayer and meditation. Those are 2 of the tools. And the other two are denial and affirmation. The key being that in the moment I catch myself judging, or I catch myself angry, catch myself resenting. The moment I catch myself fearful, I have to let it go, which is denial, or just our capacity to say no. No, I just, like a Janus faith, I turn my focus from there to there. And that takes a lot of energy.
And that's hard sometimes.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Because once we are attracted to something, it wants to keep us there. So denial is release or elimination, we call it. Just like our body eliminates, our mind is capacitated to eliminate what's not good for us. Affirmation is our power of faith. Denial is actually one of our spiritual gifts called release or elimination. It's one of the 12 powers. In practice, we call it denial, but it is that power to release. And then affirmation is our faith faculty, our faith power in action. I affirm what I want to have in my life or right now even. And whoops. And both will cleanse our consciousness and open the way for divine guidance. We can only think one thought at a time. No matter how much we might try to think two at a time, it can't happen. And so prayer and meditation kind of is about settling our mind down, quieting it down so we can hear or grasp in some way divine guidance. Any comments or questions there? Arlene or Joe? No? Okay. Right, so that. So this is from Fillmore's book, Christian Healing. Cindy, can you read this one for us, please?
A daily half-hour of meditation will open up the mind to a consciousness of the inner one and will reveal many things that are hidden from the natural man.
Yeah. Any comments or questions there? A daily half hour of meditation will open up the mind to a consciousness of the inner one. And then we're in a state to be guided or to be informed, revelation. How many of you have ever had an aha experience? We've all had aha moments, right? Oh, I see something I didn't see before. Think of an example of an aha experience, spiritually speaking. I'll start you off, but then I would love for you to pull out of the hard drive an experience where you had an aha, or you could say to you said to yourself, oh, I see, now I see what that's about. I remember, if I've told this before, raise your hand and I'll stop. I can't remember, but I had a daughter who was very difficult as a teenager. I mean, she gave me a run for my money, and then even as a young adult. And so she would make plans with me and then break them at the last minute. And my feelings got hurt. And my thinking was not helpful. I would go to, I don't feel appreciated. I'm not feeling loved right now. You know where that got me, right? And the bottom line there was, number one, I needed to get over myself, but number two is I needed to accept her just the way she was. There was a moment, I could still see myself, I was driving my car, in San Diego. And I think she had just canceled something with me, or shortly thereafter. And it came to me like a bolt of lightning. You know, I'm okay with that. I mean, that's just the way my daughter is. I don't know what's going on there, but I see that I really have to get over thinking that she has to keep her word. And I accepted, I came to that utter acceptance of her just the way she is or was. And the moment I did that, guess what happened? She stopped breaking days. So, how about an example of an aha for you? No?
Well, for me, I think the last couple of months, when my husband was going through such a rough time and I had never heard him curse.
Yeah.
And he was being very short-tempered and, you know, blaming me for things and all that. And the aha moment, which helped me, was to finally come to the, people told me this, but I didn't, you know, really believe them. Because I took everything personally also, was the fact that it really wasn't him talking, or it was what he was going through. And after that, I still took it personally at times, but I didn't fall apart the way that I was falling apart before.
Yes. You could go back to that realization that this isn't really the man I married.
Right, right. Mhm.
Yeah. Anybody else? No?
Yeah,
Oh, Carol.
yeah, my aha moment was recently when one of the medical problems was healed, where I didn't have to have surgery. Which enhanced my life a lot. And then the other medical problem that I was having wasn't clearing up. And so I might have had to have surgery in the future. And I started praying to God and saying, please heal me in this situation. All of a sudden, it's getting healed. And it might seem funny, but the more I prayed, the more it has corrected itself. So it was, God really listens. It really does. So I'm just very grateful.
Prayer works, huh?
I beg your pardon.
Prayer works.
I'm finding it really works. Yeah.
Arlene, you got anything?
Well, your topic on the screen is meditation. And as we all know, there's many different ways to meditate. Joe and I both do transcendental meditation. And whatever kind or means of meditation, I think is just, you know, even 5 minutes to start to do something that we're really being with ourselves, that we're being present with the God within, is so powerful. Whether it's a walking meditation or a drawing meditation, I think that this word is so powerful.
Great, thank you, thank you. It is, huh? Okay, I am going to do this and then we'll close for today and take up the frameworks and distinctions next week. But the fifth law is, so it's all well and good, as we know, to learn what the laws of life are. You get what you put out, like that.
Do it.
You gotta act on it in the moment, in the moment. So it doesn't mean a thing if it doesn't have that ring. Any comments before we, or let me do this, let me ask you this. What is your takeaway for today? What are you gonna take out into the day? Hopefully, I say hopefully, that will support you, assist you, helps you, I mean, makes you happy you came today,
Thank you.
and then we'll pray out.
Meditation, I think it's really, it's finding the time to actually do it. But, like this lady said, if you do it for 5 minutes or whatever, so getting back into that mode to make, it does make a difference.
It does.
It
does. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Who else? Takeaway today. Best thing you heard.
Well, I would say it just reaffirms thoughts held in mind produce, the right kind.
Yeah. It's a big deal to really get that. I've done. Cindy, what you got? What's your takeaway?
It's helped, just our talking today has brought back memories to me. And looking at different turns and twists in our relationship and our marriage. And when you were talking earlier about having a revelation or, I thought when our child died, Doug and I went 2 different directions. And we had a 3-year-old too, so, we had this, Doug couldn't talk because he had canker sores up and down his throat.
Wow.
And I needed to talk. I was just, glad I'm talking. I needed it. And I got flashback when you said that, holding my daughter underneath my arm with my suitcase in hand saying, I'm leaving.
Oh,
And I walked to the door and I turned around and Doug was standing there and I said, I had no place to go. And he goes, yes, you do. Oh, And
gonna
that
make
was
me
like,
cry.
yeah, that was like a turning point. That was like an aha moment, if you want to call it that, that we can make it through this. If we do it together. Oh. And it's spurred on so many different things. Like I said, the counseling and working with couples that have lost children and yes. Tremendous growth, from the situation, but it was like, whoa, like the heavens opened up and the dove flew down, Really, tremendous.
Beautiful. That's very beautiful. Wow. Darlene?
What, the biggest thing is that I have to, just keep doing. Just keep growing and doing and I understand the laws and stuff like that. And sometimes, because you're in this human experience, you get pulled this way and that way. So
Practice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. And how about you, Arlene? What was useful to you today?
I love being reinforced, so I don't honestly believe I got anything new, but the reason that I'm here is because I need to be reminded and reinforced.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Joe, helpful to you?
Pretty much the same thing. And it's kind of a reminder to me that, like this 5th law, doing must accompany knowing. Well, you can reverse that and say knowing without doing is pointless. Unless you put the knowledge to use, it's not doing any good. So it's a reminder to me of the continuing to do, to learn more and to do what I learned. So.
Amen. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited all the way from Colorado. And for me, I I just remember as you're all sharing that any time that I give to entertaining these spiritual ideas and listening to spiritual ideas, as you all have expressed, it's good for my health. It's a health practice. And so, so this time is always worthwhile because we talk about things that make life beautiful. So, let's pray out. Are you ready?
Right.
Oh, we'll just take a deep breath with me. And God, we just give thanks, spirit of life and goodness and love and joy in each of us. We give thanks right now for this time, knowing that it is making a difference in our day and that it is contributing to the health and vitality of our spirit, soul, and body. And so we go into the rest of our day grateful. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. Bye, you too. I hope you'll be back next week. Great to see you and have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
When are you coming back?
Mid-October.
You need just before the snow, you mean?
Beg your pardon, I didn't understand that.
Just before it snows?
Snow is a 4-letter word, so we're coming down there.
So we go to Arizona and then a few days later, we'll go to Hawaii for a couple weeks.
Ooh,
Back to Arizona after Hawaii, so.
nice. Okay, guys, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I just can't even with him. That way I don't have to look at it. Thank you again for this. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm in here. I'm in here. Okay.